So, fascinating thing. Let's talk about another principle. How about physical fitness? Yes, don't I? Well, we won't go there. But anyway, physical fitness. It is mentioned in the Bible. Actually, in a passage you probably are all very familiar with. It's in Exodus chapter 20, talking about the Ten Commandments. Look what it says in verses 9 and 10. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath. To the Lord your God, on it you shall not do any work. God is telling people to take a break. Now today, oh my gosh, how many TV shows, how many books, magazines, etc. are all talking about physical fitness and what we eat but to be physically fit, to exercise. I get this from my wife all the time. Michael, you need to exercise more. And she's absolutely correct. I don't doubt that at all. They tell us to do this. Why? For good health. Not to just break out into a sweat, but to keep good health and get us in good health. We hear about this all the time. We all know we're supposed to exercise. You see, we're not designed by God to sit around on a couch eating French fries or bonbons watching TV shows. We need to move about to be healthy. You need to move to be healthy. Let me read you something I found in the New York Daily News, an article here. Quote, 5.3 million people die each year from being lazy and inactivity. It indirectly affects our mental health and increases the risk of diabetes and heart problems. Physical inactivity is the fourth leading risk factor for death in the world, unquote. Wow, I mean, we read this. I'm not telling you anything you probably don't already know. Things like physical fitness are important. It helps to relieve stress. Stress-related illnesses such as diabetes, heart disease, cardiovascular disease, all these could be decreased in people so easily if we would simply get off our backsides, get up and start moving around and doing things. We were designed to work, to do things, to not, it's part of the curse of sin, but we are designed to actually still move around and do things. In ancient times, this wasn't so much a problem because everybody was doing manual labor. So they were doing it. But modern technology has really made us lazy. Really lazy. A lot of people today just sit at a computer all day long. They never get out of their chair. I know this so well because it's sort of like me. I have to literally get up, force myself to take breaks to get up and move around because I'm writing. I spend most of my time writing. But in this passage that we just read, one could read that we are to work. The Israelites were not to come into Canaan, even though God had them all the vineyards and everything were planted and everything, but they weren't just to come in, they were to come in and to tend the sheep. They were to grow and harvest the crops, press the olives for oil, and scores of other activities they were instructed to do. That was going to be their life. God didn't say you're going to come over to Promised Land and just sit on a stone sofa and eat bonbons. No, they were still going to work. They were going to be physically active to keep them healthy. More importantly, God instructed them to take a day off. Don't work all the time. How many of us have that problem? Some of us have problems trying to find a day off. That goes against what God's law is saying too. Rest is important. You have to have rest to have a healthy body, to have a healthy mind. And today, just pick up news articles or whatever and books, magazines, you'll see this being printed all the time. It's out there everywhere, but we just don't catch it. But the thing is, the point I'm making, this all came in the Bible first, 3,400 years ago. Let's talk about sexual morality. Let me just show you a couple of verses here. I'm not going to get into a whole lot of things on this, but I just want to show you the Bible does have solutions for a lot of problems. And speaking on sexual moralities, as we're talking about health codes and things, and medicine. In Exodus 20:14, God says, you shall not commit adultery. Boom. That's pretty plain. Leviticus 18:22 says, you shall not lie with a man as with a woman. It's an abomination. Boom. Leviticus 19:29, do not profane your daughter by making her a prostitute. Pretty clear. Leviticus chapter 20, verse 10, and a bunch of verses after. You can read it on your own. If a man commits adultery, there's a whole list of things. God is condemning all of this sexual immorality. You see, since ancient times, sexually transmitted diseases and other illnesses related to immoral behavior have plagued society. Canaan, the land, the promised land that God gave to the Israelites, was rampant with sexual sin. Now, much of this was, the sexual corruption was caused by the religions that they had, the worship of the Baals and Asherah and others, that it was all from that. But many archaeologists and historians believe that this land was also filled with STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, that these people were very infected. Now, God's bringing His holy people into this land where you have all this. So He gives them very, very strict rules. You're going to be pure and holy because I'm pure and holy. I'm holy, you're going to be my holy people, is what He's saying. So He gave them laws based on sexual purity, so because it's important to not only us, but it's important to God that we stay healthy. And they failed, obviously in miserable ways, as you read through the Old Testament books of Kings and Chronicles. They did terrible things, or the book of Judges, how terrible things got. Sexual immorality is running rampant in our world today. Living a holy and sexually moral life according to God's law greatly reduces most STDs. Do you know that? It's true. You can find documentation on this everywhere. But man is a morally corrupt creature that constantly is seeking his own pleasure without regard to holiness. Selfishness and lust contribute to so much to people's anguish today. People have guilt and things caused by this. I can't begin to count how many people, from students when I was a teacher to even as I've worked in ministry to adults and everything, who have struggled with such anxiety, such mental anguish, or with diseases simply because of being sexually immoral. Right now, I have a thought going through my mind of one of my high school students who came up to me after school one day, all upset and in tears. And he was a senior, and I said, "What's the matter?" And he said, we're alone in the lab, and he says, "I just found out from the lady that I'm dating that she just got diagnosed with HIV, and I'm afraid I'm going to have AIDS now." And he was just crushed, and he was sexually immoral. I mean, just put it that way. I didn't condemn him. I tried to help the guy. You know, you love the sin or you hate the sin. But I have also counseled adults who have experienced, married couples that have gone through such terrible anguish in their marriage, and it comes down to one or both of them to their sexual past when they were teenagers, of what they did in the past. They can't get over that. And we don't talk about this sometimes enough, that the anguish that happens from all of this. No, today instead we point to, if it feels good, do it. You know, it's one of the major slogans, and other slogans like that. That's what we're after. Instead of following God's law, God's way of doing things to live a healthy life, people keep trying to do what? What are we doing today? We're making new medicines constantly. So why? We can continue to live as amorally as we want. So let's just make a new drug for it to treat it. Well, if we follow God's law, we don't have to do that. You don't have to. We could lessen or even remove many diseases if we just follow God's health code. And finally, let's talk about nutrition. Now, I'm just barely going to touch on this one because we're coming to the end on this, and this has been getting long. But this one, I'm going to show you a couple of passages here. But we're going to make a whole new lesson on this, but let's start off with this. What does God's Word say about nutrition? What does the science in the Bible say about nutrition? In Leviticus chapter 3, verse 17, it reads, "It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwelling places, that you eat neither fat nor blood." Here's another one. Leviticus chapter 7, verses 23 through 26. "Speak to the people of Israel, saying that you shall eat no fat of an ox or a sheep or a goat, the fat of an animal that dies of itself, and the fat of one that is torn by beasts may be put to any other use, but on no account shall you eat it. For every person who eats of the fat of the animal of which a food offering may be made to the Lord shall be cut off from the tribe or from his people. Moreover, you shall eat no blood whatever, whether of fowl or of animal, in any of your dwelling places. Whoever eats any blood, that person shall be cut off from his people." And just to give you one here, the entire chapter of Leviticus 11. I'm telling you, there's so much information here. There's no time that we have to go through this. But there are many, let me just say this, there are so many food principles set forth in the Torah, in the Mosaic Health Code, that people have written literally books just on this. One book that I have read that is fascinating on this is Moses, the First Author of Health, written by a doctor. And there's other ones that are out there. They're flooding the market. You can find books going on the Mosaic Health Code and the nutrition that God sets forth. You know, the Jews are a peculiar people, and that's what it says in Peter. And the thing is, their diets are different. You go to a Jewish area of a city, the restaurants offer a different diet than what you see at a common McDonald's. So there's many books, there's many magazines, many articles and things, and even TV shows on this, and documentaries and things showing and proving that following the Mosaic food law, the code here given by God, leads to a more healthy life and a longer life expectancy. Did you know that in some states in the United States, life insurance companies gives discounts to Jewish families, Orthodox Jewish families that follow the Jewish health code? They do. Why? Because studies have shown over the years that they are actually healthier and they live longer because of their diet. But like I say, this is such a large topic. Oh my gosh, there's so much we could go in on that we're going to make a whole another lesson just on this. We're going to have a lesson, special lesson. The next one will be just on nutrition. Because there's so much I could tell you. And even in this, I'm not going to be able to give you a whole lot of information, but we'll take a look at certain passages in the Bible and show you how accurate the Bible is. And why certain things, like why were lobster and shrimp forbidden to eat back then? There's reasons for this. And the blood and stuff. I remember when I studied cooking classes, we sometimes used blood, and I studied French cuisine, and we used blood as a thickener for sauces at times. So I mean, why is this bad and stuff? We'll get into into our next lesson. But I hope you've enjoyed this one as we've gone through and seen the medicine aspects of the Bible. And oh my gosh, there are so many more pieces that we could do. We just don't have time. There's books on it you can buy, you can download and stuff. Some are written by Jewish doctors and things, following the Mosaic Health Code or the kosher food laws. It is amazing what you can find out. But we'll talk more about it in the next lesson. So anyway, I want to thank you for joining me through this lesson. And then if you made it through it, congratulate yourself, pat yourself on the back, jump up and down, say yahoo, whatever. But thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this. And again, check out our website. We have other things on the website, and we would love for you to join us also in this ministry. There's a link on our webpage that you can do that. But until we see again, you take care and God bless. Goodbye.